Okay, so we have looked at how to put information data into point slope form. Now we're going to look at some applications of when we might see problems in the real world that we could put into point slope form and then actually find some other solutions to it. So let's look at example A. Paul wants to place an ad in a newspaper. The newspaper charges $10 for the first 2 lines of text and $3 for each additional line of text. Paul's ad is 8 lines long. How much will the ad cost? So there's a couple of ways you could do this. You could figure, I feel like, let me show you how to do the point slope form, and then I will give you an opportunity to see if you can do it another way. Okay? So, in terms of point slope form, we ideally want a point and a slope. So we're talking about the cost of placing an ad. And that's based on what? It's dependent on what? The cost depends on what? How many lines there are, right? So, in this problem, X is the number of lines, and Y is the cost. So right away we can come up with one point on our line, and that is that 2 lines costs how much? $10, right? So our first, our point, one of the points on our equation or line would be 210 because 2 lines cost $10. And then after that, what's the rate of change? How much is each line after that? $3. So that's our slope. So M equals 3. So we can come up with our equation. We know we've got a point and the slope. So we can come up with our equation, and that's going to be y minus 10 equals 3 times x minus 2. So there's our equation. And if we want to figure out how much 8 lines is going to cost, what are we going to plug 8 into? Lines is represented by which variable? X is the number of lines. So we're going to let x equal 8. So right here I'm going to put 8. And then I'm going to use order of operations and solving equations to help me figure out what the cost is. So 8 minus 2 is 6. So I get 3 times 6 equals y minus 10. What is 3 times 6? 18. So y minus 10 equals 18. Add 10 to both sides. Y equals 28. So what does that 28 represent? Y represents cost. So that's $28 for how many lines? 8 lines. So 8 lines would cost $28. So again, on this problem, x equals the number of lines in the ad, y is the cost. And we're already presented with one point on the line because we know the cost of a certain amount of lines. What is that? The base cost. $15 for 3 lines. And so as an ordered pair, x goes first. X represents the lines, so we would put 3 lines. And y is the cost, so we would put 15 for y. And then what's the rate of change after that? $2, right? So that is our slope. So now we can rewrite it in point slope form. Y minus 15 equals 2 times x minus 3. Okay, so we have our equation. What are we trying to find? Because we're comparing, correct? Newspapers. So what do we need to find here for this newspaper? The cost for 8 lines, right? Because Paul wants to put an ad that's 8 lines long in to this newspaper, one of the 2 newspapers, either the one on A or B. So lines is the x variable. So with the equation that we just created, we're going to put 8 in for x, and we're going to solve for y to figure out what that cost would be. So 8 minus 3 is 5. I'm going to have 2 times 5 on the right. 2 times 5 is 10, so y minus 5 equals 10. Am I doing that right? Oh, 15. That should be 15, not 5. And then adding 15 to both sides. Y equals 25. What does 25 represent? Dollars. The cost of 8 lines. So which newspaper is cheaper? This one. Okay. All right, so there may be a time when you buy a graduation announcement, or you have to place an ad in a paper, and where you're going to go print those, we'll say, well, we have a certain fee for so many lines. After that, then it's so much a line. And they can give you the quote, but it's always good to know, to figure it, because people make mistakes, right? Here I am up here, and it seems like every day I've made some kind of mistake in the solution key. So it happens. Even the professionals make mistakes. So it is good for you to understand kind of where they're getting that number, and making sure that there hasn't been an error made, because an error would be could be in the favor of you or the favor of them. Either way, not right, and we want it to be right. Okay? All right. So a roller skating rink offers a special rate for birthday parties. Anybody gone roller skating before? Used to be the thing back in the day when I was younger. Roller skating. Friday nights or Saturday nights. Anyway, I could do it backwards. I could roller skate backwards. Can you do that? Anybody else do that? How about ice skating? Have you done the ice skating over there? I've ice skated once. It was more difficult. It's not super easy. Anyway, I'm going to push pause on this. Anyway. So, roller skating rink. Here we go. We're having a birthday party at the roller skating rink. And you can have 10 skaters. It will cost $107. And a party for 15 skaters costs $137. How much would a party for 12 skaters cost? Okay, so we have 2 variables here. What are the 2 variables? X and Y. What do X and Y represent? Skaters and cost, right? And then we have values for those. So we're going to let, which one depends on the other? Cost depends on the skaters. So we let the skaters be X. And we're going to let the cost equal Y. All right, so this is a little different because here we've got 2 situations. We've got 2 times when they tell us the number of skaters will cost this much. So that's basically 2 points they're giving us. So the first point they're giving us is that 10 skaters cost $107. So there we go. 10 is the number of skaters, and skaters is X, so we put that value first. And for 10 skaters, it's $107. Then the second set of information that we get is that 15 skaters cost $137. So that's our second point, 15 skaters, $137. So we're trying to figure out how much a party for 12 skaters would cost. So here we don't have what? We don't have the slope. So we've got to figure the slope. Nolan, are you with me? Okay. We're going to figure the slope. And that's y2 minus y1. So that's 137 minus 107. And then 15 minus 10. 137 minus 107 is 30. Is that right? 30. And 15 over 10 is 5 for a simplified value of 6. Bless you. Correct? Okay, so we have our slope. What do we need to do? We want to put it in point slope form, so we need a point. So I'm going to use the second point and write my equation. So y minus y1. So my y value in the point that I'm using is 137 equals slope times x minus the x coordinate of the point I'm using. Okay, so we have the equation that fits the data that we're given. That's not what we were asked to do, right? It didn't say find the equation. It said how much would a party of 12 skaters cost? So what do we have to do? We need to plug in 12 for which variable is skaters? X. So I'm going to put 12 here. Freaking me out a little bit, but there we go. Oh, I should put 6 there. I forgot to put 6 on that, didn't I? Right there should be 6. And 12 minus 15 is a negative 3. And that would be a negative 18. I'm getting a little nervous because I'm working with the negatives. I shouldn't have a negative cost. But then I do what to both sides? Add 137. So that's going to put me into the positive. What's a negative 18 plus 137? 119? Okay, so let's see if that makes sense for the problem. 119 represents what? Cost for 12 skaters, right? So $119. Does that make sense? We have 10 skaters. It costs $107. So should 12 be more? Yeah, should be. I would think. 15, it costs 137. So should 12 be less than 15? Yeah, and it is. So I'm thinking we did okay. Anybody notice any errors that I made? Okay, so $119. Very good. All right, we're going to stop there. You can keep this in your notes. What we're going to do now is some whiteboard review for the quiz tomorrow. But let's talk about that.